reducing greenhouse gas emissions, assessing shared mobility options, improving equitable access to advanced transportation, and even coordinating workforce development opportunities. Next slide. So now that you have a better understanding of the Clean Cities and Communities Partnership, I'd like to quickly introduce the three directors of the Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine coalitions. We have Peggy O'Neill Vivanco in Vermont, John LeBeer in New Hampshire, and myself in Maine. Next slide. So first up, I'd like to introduce our first speaker from DeVivo Bus Sales. Matt has been in school transportation for 23 years, working as a bus driver, supervisor, director, bus sales, and sales manager. As the school bus sales manager at DeVivo Bus Sales, he is one of the product experts on electric vehicles for the multiple EV product lines they offer. So with that, I will turn it over to Matt to talk more about his work and all the great things that they're doing in the Northeast.
All right, thanks, John. Let's see if we can present. There we go. It seems to be working. Can everybody see that?
Perfect. Yes.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. So DeVivo Bus Sales, we currently have 3 EV certified locations across New England. One located in New Britain, Connecticut, and one in Norton, Massachusetts, and our newest location in Falmouth, Maine. We offer various lines of zero emissions vehicles. From the Collins E-Transit school bus, the IC bus, ECE school bus, Sunset vans, their Ford E-Transit upfitted wheelchair accessible vans, the Ram ProMaster low floor wheelchair accessible vans, and Turtle Top shuttle bus, which is upfitted by Motive. So we offer a lot more than just school bus. We also do shuttle bus and other transit vehicles. So how do we support zero emissions vehicles? Our New Britain location is home to the Navistar East Coast Electrical Vehicle Training Center. And all courses are taught by our in-house technical director. So we support dealerships, all Navistar dealerships east of the Mississippi, as well as we are starting to implement training for customers who are receiving or have recently received electric school buses in their fleets. We also offer grant writing assistance, training, again, for technicians, drivers, first responders, electric vehicle specification experts, as well as infrastructure and charging project management. Our zero emissions team that we have Kevin DeVivo, who is our general manager and does a lot of assistance with our grant writing, along with myself. Ron King, who is our technical director and provides the majority of our training. Myself, I am one of our vehicle specifications experts, as well as help provide training on the driver side. And then we have Andy Rotundo, who is our EV project manager and assists with infrastructure and charging and managing those projects for customers. Our sales reps in each of those regions, we have Tim Clark that covers Maine and New Hampshire. We have Vermont, Connecticut, and Western Massachusetts is Dante Spell, and Eastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island is Diana Amaral. So looking to see what we've done so far as a leader in New England for zero emissions buses. For the 2022 EPA Clean School Bus Rebate Program, or Round 1, we put in 24 applications. We were awarded 4 awards across Maine, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. That totaled 51 electric school buses that we are still working towards deploying the last few of those. The 2023 EPA Clean School Bus Grant Program, or Round 2, we submitted a single application on behalf of 5 school districts in Massachusetts and Connecticut, and we were awarded 85 electric school buses on behalf of those school districts. And for the most recent 2023 EPA Clean School Bus Rebate Program, Round 3, we submitted 11 applications on behalf of customers with 5 awards across Maine and Massachusetts, totaling 22 electric school buses. And we're also working with additional awardees of that program as well. for new school bus deployments. So we are very active in the Clean School Bus Rebate Program. Very open to working with any customers that are interested, any school districts that are interested. And as you can see, we've had a lot of success in our applications over the past 3 rounds. So as we approach the 2024 EPA Clean School Bus Grant Program, we are here and ready to help with that funding. So just kind of a breakdown of electric school buses that we are currently supporting in New England. The DATCO fleet, which is the parent company of DeVivo Bus Sales. We operate 11 school buses in Connecticut, 1 school bus at RSU 13 in Rockland, Maine, 2 at RSU 57 in Waterboro, Maine, the Connecticut Technical Education and Career System in Connecticut currently has 13 of their total of 25 buses that they received. Student Transportation of America in Weir, New Hampshire, and Seymour, Connecticut for 4 and 2 buses each. We just delivered 10 E-Transit wheelchair accessible vans to the Massachusetts Operational Services Division. And then still to come, just in 2024, we are looking at deploying 24 buses to Whaling City Transit to support Fall River and New Bedford Public Schools. The remaining buses for Connecticut Technical Education and Career Systems. And for Durham School Services, helping them with 3 buses for Rumney, New Hampshire, and 24 buses for Blackstone Valley Prep in Rhode Island. Education that we've done for zero emissions vehicles. We presented to the Maine Association of Pupil Transportation, the Maine Association of School Business Officials, Department of Education Educators Summit, Live Green Connecticut, and many other individual districts across New England. And we're always willing to present information on zero emissions vehicles to anybody who is willing to listen to us. We definitely want to share as much information as we can. We feel education is key in helping to folks understand and get around things like their range anxiety and where their district, their buses can perform best in their school districts. So again, just talking about the funding opportunities, we expect the 2024 EPA Clean School Bus Grant Program round 4 probably this fall. Currently open is the 2024 EPA Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles Program. And we just continue to talk to people about planning for the future. Whether your states adopt the CARB regulations or not, we still have EPA greenhouse gas 2027 emissions coming, which will put more restrictions on diesel emissions and increased costs for diesel engines and extended warranties. And what I always tell every district that I work with is that an electric school bus may not fit all routes, but every district has one route at least that you can try an electric bus on and see the benefits that it can have on your school district. So that's everything I have in a nutshell. There's my information for anybody who may want to reach out in the future. Can reach out by phone or by email, and I appreciate everybody's time.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, sorry about that. Thanks, folks. Had to remove my computer. Look at that. My name is John Lapierre, and I have the distinct privilege of introducing Mike Jones. He's a project leader in the Technical Assistance for Clean Transportation Group in the Center for Integrated Mobility Sciences at the National Renewable Energy Lab, otherwise and affectionately known as NREL. In his current role, Mike provides technical assistance for multiple projects in support of the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation and the U.S. DOE Vehicle Technologies Office, among other responsibilities. Prior to NREL, Mike spent nearly a decade at the Maryland Energy Administration, where he served as the Transportation Program Team Lead and the State of Maryland Clean Cities Coalition Director. Oh, I didn't realize that, a former director. Well, welcome, Mike, and thank you so very, very kindly. Since you were a director before, you know how important this work is, and I'll let you take it from here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Certainly. Thanks for having me, John. Yeah, like John said, I was with Clean Cities community for nearly 10 years. So certainly appreciate the opportunity for being able to join you all today. Should I pull up my own slide deck, or do you guys have them up for me or ready for me?
We have your slides ready for you, Mike. Thanks.
Ah, perfect. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Mike Jones. I'm a project lead here at NREL, and was asked to join you all today to speak on a technical assistance opportunity that we've called the Clean Bus Planning Awards Program, which provides school bus fleets with fleet electrification transition plans. So I'm going to talk on that just a little bit today. Next slide, please. So before I get into the details of what this technical assistance from opportunity from NREL looks like, just very quickly speak on what we see as the value proposition for going through a transition planning exercise in the first place. So from our vantage point, and from talking to various school bus fleets, it's apparent to us and to the joint office that bus fleets really do have varying motivations, and they're coming at the electrification angle from a number of different vantage points with regards to why you're interested, what your level of experience is, your expertise, the amount of bandwidth that you have. Obviously, school bus fleets are pressed for time, and the top priority for school bus operators is getting students from point A to B safely. May not always have the amount of time that is required to successfully plan an electric transition. So, we think that really, regardless of your school bus fleet profile, going through a transition planning effort can really add value in a number of ways, including really to help set a vision for deployment. Really helping to rally unified support from both your internal teams and your external stakeholders, your constituents, your school board, etc. Instead of kind of going after some of these funding opportunities like the EPA Clean School Bus Program or various state opportunities, and basically let's throw something at the wall and see if it'll stick. That can work for some folks, but in our experience, going through this transition planning exercise can really give a roadmap that can educate and inform purchasing and deployment decisions. And like I said, being able to have a third party such as NREL and our partners come on board to kind of help coordinate everybody, get everyone on the same page, we think is a value benefit in and of itself. It can be really difficult to pull together all the right folks within a school department. You got to get the fleet folks on board, and then there's the finance people, there's administrators, and then outside there's utility partners. There's a lot of different people that have to come to the table to make a fleet electrification transition successful. And we think that bringing in a third party to kind of bring all those people to the table can be really helpful. I'll talk a bit more coming up about what those plans specifically include, but generally speaking, these transition plans help school bus fleets establish realistic short-term and long-term targets supported by technical analysis. Again, it can be great to be aspirational, and maybe we'll go after funding and we'll figure things out afterwards, but that's not always the most sound strategy. Some folks on this group may have heard some stories coming out of the EPA program where eyes got kind of big when these big federal funding opportunities came out. Let's throw our name in the pot and see what happens, and are somewhat surprised when you're actually selected for award, and you kind of have a oh no moment where we realize we haven't done any planning. We don't know if we even have the capacity to support these buses. Can it even meet our route needs, etc. So I think really setting those targets can really set you up for success, with these federal funding opportunities and just with deployment in general. And last but not least, I think just generally speaking, the folks that have gone through transition plans that we've spoken with, it's not just a point or a piece of paper that sits on a desk and collects dust and isn't helpful for too long. these transition plans we really expect to serve as a foundation and really a daily reference point for a school bus fleet's operations moving forward and guiding subsequent deployment efforts. So this is open to both school and transit bus. Obviously, we'll focus on the school bus angle today, but we are working in partnership with the EPA and their clean school bus program. So they are looped in and very much supportive of our effort here. Next slide, please. So program overview. If anyone is looking at this on a laptop, obviously you have a cell phone nearby. I'll drop a link in the chat with our program webpage, but also feel free to pull it up yourselves on this QR code that we have set up. The Clean Bus Planning Awards program, as I said, is a free technical assistance opportunity. The bold and underlined text on free there is not accidental. We really want to emphasize that this is a totally free opportunity to school bus fleets. There really are no strings attached. There's no, conditions of participating, no requirements to deploy or buy a bus per se within a certain amount of time. This really is a totally free of charge opportunity to get very customized and comprehensive transition guidance. This is being funded by the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation, Joint Office for short, and they have entrusted NREL to administer and manage the program on their behalf. So really any school bus fleet is eligible for this. If you're eligible for the EPA Clean School Bus program, then you would largely 99.9% be eligible to get assistance through the bus planning awards. These applications are being accepted on a rolling basis. So this is not a competitive program per se. We're doing this on a first come, first served basis. We opened this up back in February, and I've had a good response so far, and we'll touch on that just a bit more in a minute. Like I said, these transition plans really are the primary, deliverable and objective of this program, but there is a secondary component that we are expecting to fold into this a bit later on down the line, what we're calling deployment assistance, where after a fleet goes through the program, gets a transition plan, we're offering select fleets an opportunity to sort of extend that, that off-ramp, so to speak, trying to bridge the gap between planning and implementation. And that is a bit more gray in terms of what that'll look like. That'll really vary on fleet by fleet basis, but just did want to highlight that there is an opportunity, a secondary piece of this to get some assistance as well following the completion of the transition plan. Next slide, please. Equity considerations. We are, again, accepting applications on a first come, first serve rolling basis, and it is open to pretty much any EPA eligible school bus operator. Having said that, we are strongly encouraging applications from school bus fleets that may meet one or more of these prioritization criteria. You can see, from these bullets here, we're kind of looking to identify folks that may be in priority districts per EPA's definition, fleets that are operating in rural or tribal or disadvantaged communities. So would be remiss to not point that out, that we are really in particular hoping to get applications from school bus operators that meet one or more of these criteria. Next slide, please. So the transition plans, what's included in that? This is a very high level overview of what is to be included. I think the most important point to note here is this asterisk towards the bottom, that while we do have, we have developed, a bit of a boilerplate in terms of what we expect to include, as you'll see kind of noted in these bullets. Ultimately, every plan will be tailored and customized to that fleet and their specific circumstances, their specific needs, their specific policy targets, incentives in their area, etc. So we don't expect these to be cookie cutter type plans that are just sort of copy and paste for everybody. We really do, expect these to be, fully customized and specific to your unique needs and considerations. But there's a lot kind of captured here, but I think that at its core, the main component of these transition plans are technical analysis on both the vehicle side, route analysis, feasibility on the buses, and then also on the infrastructure side. What does that infrastructure look like? Do we have the capacity to support the number of chargers that we may need to charge these buses, etc.? So those are the main components. And while the EPA Clean School Bus Program does not ask you for a transition plan, explicitly the way that the FTA does on the transit side with their Low-No grant program, we do expect that going through this process, it'll give you kind of answers to the test, so to speak. Anyone who's gone through the EPA Clean School Bus Grant knows that with each funding round, they're asking more and more detailed project planning questions. And we think going through this process can really help you get your ducks in a row, so to speak, before you go and apply for some of those opportunities. Next slide, please. Just wanted to point out a very, quick high-level award map of who we're working with so far. Like I said, we opened this up in February. Thus far, we've received about 32 applications, 17 of which we have or are expecting to move forward for transition plans. The yellow dots are the ones representing the school bus fleets. So of the 17, only 6 are school bus, 11 are transit bus. So all the more reason for me to be on this webinar talking to you all today. We really want to get the word out to more school bus fleets. It's been a bit transit heavy so far, and that's good for other reasons, but we do think that this is a good opportunity for school bus operators to get some really comprehensive technical assistance. Next slide, please. For time purposes, I'll just be really brief here. I will work with the host to get these slides out to everybody, but when I share the website link, you'll see these expectations and process mapped out as well. But basically, once we get an application, we'll do a quick vetting call to make sure you're a good fit, learn more about what your needs are. We'll have a kickoff call scheduled where we will introduce you to our subcontractor partners who are helping us with this effort. There's some fleet data that has to be given, and that's really one of the main expectations. Is we're not asking fleets for much other than your time in the form of monthly check-in meetings and some data to get our analysis started. We really hope and are expecting all transition plans to be completed within a maximum of 6 months from that kickoff call. And there's an opportunity to kind of get a one-on-one run through of that plan with you and your stakeholders at the conclusion of the project plan. So that's a very kind of quick and high-level overview. And again, this will all be presented on our website as well. But the main point to take away from here is that it's free. We're only asking for a little bit of your time and your data to get us started, and relatively quick turnaround in terms of how long we're hoping to get these transition plans completed. Next slide, please. And that's it. Email address here is cbpa@nrel.gov. And again, I will drop a link to our program webpage in the chat. Appreciate everyone's time.
I'm going to jump in here. So thank you again, Mike, for coming on and sharing all that with us. Mike has to get going here. So before he goes, though, I'd love to hear any questions you might have for either Mike or Matt. Matt went through his slides very quickly. We appreciate that. But one thing I heard him touch on was helping folks to write their grant applications, right? So that may be something that you'd like to know more about from Matt, or if you have questions for Mike. So we're going to let you ask those two questions. If you have a question, I see some of you have already raised
Someone
your
has a
hands.
hand up, John.
Please go ahead and just raise your hand, and then when I call on you, you can go ahead and unmute, and also come on camera if you wish. You can stay off camera if that's what you prefer. Jen Durgan, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, hi. I live in Hartford, Vermont, and our school district gets their buses through, I believe, a private company. So would that make them ineligible for the free transition plan?
No, so you're saying that the buses are operated by a private contractor?
Yeah.
Yep, so that's perfectly fine. Again, as long as that entity is generally eligible to participate in the EPA funding, then they could come to us for transition planning assistance as well. So we
Okay.
could work out an arrangement, between us, the contractor, and the school district as to who may be the best applicant. Our experience thus far is that the entity operating the buses, which in this case would be the contractor,
Yeah.
would be the most appropriate, applicant, but we could potentially be amenable to whatever negotiations or setup you're comfortable with. But yes, we could work with that, no problem.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anyone else have any questions for Mike or Matt?
And John, I would just point out real quick, you made a comment about application funding assistance. So this plan would not help an entity write, would not directly assist a school bus entity with writing or developing their EPA clean school bus application. Rather, this, I think I was just trying to say that this would.
Oh no, that was I don't mean to cut you off.
process.
I was referencing a comment that Matt had made before you.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. You can't help people write the grants for the school buses. That would be a bit of a problem. But what I did notice in your presentation was the RFP process. You'll help with that. Like, to me, and I don't know, maybe other people feel differently, but to me, that seems like a pretty nice thing to help with as well.
Yeah, so that's part of this. That's potentially part of the secondary element of this program, the deployment assistance. Again, we haven't fleshed that out quite as much as to what that'll look like, but there is the potential. A fleet has to go through the planning process first, so you can't come to us just to get deployment assistance. But if a fleet does come to us and get a transition plan completed, there is the potential to kind of circle back, towards the end of that process and see, can we extend the off-ramp of assistance? And one of those things could include support with developing, RFPs or procurements for getting buses, getting chargers, things like that. But truth be told, that the primary, focus here now are those transition plans.
Sure. Richie, I saw you had your hand up. Did you have a question you wanted to ask either Matt or Mike?
Yeah, thanks very much both for your presentations. Mike, I just wanted to check, you said you've accepted 17 of those applications. Is there a limit on the amount that NREL will be accepting, or a time frame?
The only limit that we have is the amount of funding that we have to basically operate the program. And most of those dollars, our budget, if you want to call it that, is really going to our subcontractors to who are writing these plans. The reason that only 17 of those 32 have been approved so far is not necessarily anything, any limiting factors from our side. It's just folks have not responded to emails. We can't get calls set up with them. We've discovered some more targeted pressing needs. I kind of avoided going into some of those details, but that's why only some of those fleets have actually been approved thus far, mostly for scheduling and responsiveness type of things.
Okay, so there's plenty of time and space for taking over.
Yes. Yep. Right now, there's plenty of opportunity and time to submit an application for anyone who's interested.
I think the reason I'm asking is we are finding that the school districts they're so strapped with doing the day-to-day work that it's very difficult for them to have the time. So even, just need to get them over the hump so they can engage, and then you can help them through.
Sure thing. Yeah, and I will say the website that I dropped in the chat, you'll see our application link. It's Microsoft Forms form. We think it can be completed in maybe 10 to 15 minutes. It's intentionally pretty high level. Not trying to be overbearing or scaring one from applying before they actually do so. So again, if they can take the 15 minutes to fill out that form, and they can commit to giving us some data and checking in with us, once a month or so, we think it could be a reasonable burden, level of burden on the fleets, we hope.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
Excellent question. Do we have any further questions now? Not seeing any hands. If you are trying to raise your hand and you're just not able to, go ahead and take your mic off and announce yourself. All right, well.
Hi, John.
say-
John,
yeah, go
I
ahead,
wanted
Peggy.
to jump in. This is Peggy from Vermont Clean Cities and Communities. This is a question for Matt and your facility. So first of all, super thrilled that we have a facility in the Northeast. What kinds of education programs do you offer, and what's the process for any of our stakeholders to reach out and engage with you, or do you said you're willing to talk to anybody. How do we go about doing that and accessing your expertise?
Yeah, so feel free to send an email. I did send John my slides so you can share that with everybody after, that has my contact information on it. But in terms of education, we talk a lot about vehicle range and range anxiety, best types of routes that buses to be used on, looking at charging. When we go to actually do vehicle deployments, we do training with first responders, tow truck companies, the school district technicians, the bus drivers. So we try and touch all aspects of everything from the actual vehicle itself to operations to repairs and everything else that goes along with the vehicle. So we can certainly help answer questions in any of those fields.
Thank you. A quick follow-up. Have you had any concerns with your school districts on the charging or any code issues around charging inside a facility?
Not yet. We haven't had anybody looking for that we've talked to yet that's looking for indoor charging.
Okay.
All of the sites so far that we've dealt with all of the customers have all been outdoor charging.
Great. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And Matt, you just heard probably Mike's presentation. Do you think that program will be helpful for even some of your customers? Like, is that something that you'd see yourself maybe broadcasting as a resource?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like Mike had mentioned, I think the less burdensome this can be to school districts from all aspects, whether it's applying, writing the grant, the RFP process, managing the project as it moves forward, wherever any of us can help in those pieces to assist school districts and other customers that are already short-staffed. I think the more success we may have, because if we're asking them to do additional work than what they're already stretched thin on able to do in a day, we probably won't have as much success.
I agree. And that leads one more question, and I'm going to let Mike go. Is Mike, with the planning process here, are you guys looping in contractors like Matt? Like, if Matt has a client that wants to use the services, and also provide the buses and whatever else and training, are you guys looping and working with contractors also, or are you sticking just with getting the planning for an eventual project, or is it something where you can get involved as a project is going on or about to start?
Yeah, so I think I'll try to answer this in a few parts. So we are working with the applicant, and the applicant should be the operator of the buses, whether that is the school district themselves, or if that's a privately operated contractor that has a contract with the school district. So that is who we are working with directly. Now, if that contractor or school district, wants to pull in, some of their partners, whether that's specific OEM or, et cetera, that's their prerogative, and we're certainly open to that. One thing that I didn't note is, didn't quite go into detail on is, when we're doing these feasibility assessments, for the buses, again, we are going to tailor these to what the fleet wants and what their, considerations are. So if a fleet has a preference for a specific school bus OEM, or a contractual requirement to operate a specific school bus OEM, we will factor that into our analysis. So, we're kind of working through, the operator of the buses, but, I think our process allows us to, encapsulate and involve, the pertinent partners as the fleet deems necessary.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Unless there's one more burning question, I'm going to let Mike jump off and attend to the rest of his day. Mike, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Matt, thank you for answering those questions. I don't know if you have to jump or if you're going to hang on. There'll be one more opportunity for questions at the very, very end. And so if you do think of something and Matt's still around, I'm sure he wouldn't mind if you asked. And I'm going to now ask that we put the slides back up and move to the next slide.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt and Mike and John for moderating. Next up is Amy McGuire. She's a clean energy and climate change expert with experience both in the public and private sectors. Amy is currently the Senior Director of Market Development at Highland Electric Fleets. Over the course of her career, she's had the opportunity to lead initiatives in energy resilience, solar financing, energy storage, electric vehicles, and grid modernization. Sort of encompasses everything that we need in our fleet electrification. Currently at Highland, she's heading up the effort to develop and execute strategies to mobilize stakeholders within and around public sector fleets to support and encourage fleet electrification. Amy, thank you for joining us, and let you take it from here.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to hear the other voices on the call so far, and I'm really glad to be included. For those that you don't know, Highland Electric Fleets is based in Beverly, Massachusetts, so a little south of this coalition of clean communities organizations, but certainly think of the Northeast as our home, and are very glad to be part of the community. I will dive in here, and where I like to start is just reminding everyone and sort of level set in a way, and perhaps surprise some of you, but the fact that just about everyone in the game is in fact in the game of electrification is pretty exciting. There are tons of different manufacturers of vehicles out there of all sizes, and most, if not all of them, have an electric version in either production or fully operational. And that it stands true for the major OEMs or manufacturers of school buses. So super exciting to say that transportation electrification is truly underway, and we at Highland hope to very much be part of that. Go to the next slide, please. And the way that we think about ourselves in that electrification transition is really as a partner to any and all public fleets. We've primarily focused on school buses to date, but also support other types of public fleet vehicles, whether in the refuse space or box trucks, and we can get a little bit into that later on. But to date, as I said, focused on school buses and focused in filling what we saw as a gap, much as my fellow presenters spoke to earlier, offering support for resource-strapped school districts in particular was clearly something that was necessary, and we've sort of taken it a step further to the level of sticking with a school district in this instance through the full life cycle of a vehicle and the charging infrastructure that would support it through what we call a fleet electrification as a service contract. We provide everything from the upfront planning and conceptualization of a project or even a full future electrification plan through seeking out grants and incentive funding to developing the project and getting buses up and running, and then managing them for the life of what is typically a 10 to 15-year contract, depending on where you sit. Our service covers the cost of all of that in a bundled package, and as you can see, we do training, we cover electricity, and also look to make sure that things are running smoothly throughout. The next slide, please. Oh, changed colors, but I like it. Got a little formatting excitement here, but here we are with what is a map of our currently operational fleets. So you can see a little concentration up in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. You'll hear from our customer in a little bit here in South Burlington, Vermont. But what you can also see is that over the 5 years that we've been in business, we've really we've grown. Our business has expanded quickly, and we're certainly improving and increasing our expertise as we go. We do have over 600 school buses under contract and have been lucky enough to receive over $350 million in incentive funds for our school district partners, with the federal, state, and utility money available today to support these projects. We've been able to make sure that the places we work are getting the financial support they need to successfully deploy projects. Next slide, please. And those projects that that we work with and that use our business model to be successful in electrification come in very many varieties. I've highlighted sort of the smallest and the largest, but I think that we can also say, from very rural, very urban, we have, everything from rural Southern Illinois to downtown LA and Compton, from Beverly Public School, Burlington, Vermont, and Detroit, Michigan. So really quite a range. And I think the piece that I take away from that is that the business model that we use and our approach is flexible, it's customizable, and I think we've hit on a good process and path for really, as I was saying earlier, bridging the gap between available technology. The vehicles are there, the manufacturers are there, to a opportunity for school districts to safely deliver their students each day in a cleaner, we'll call it a cleaner box than they would have ordinarily. Next slide, please. Again, this is a new color scheme for us. Sorry, this is throwing me off a little bit, but I'll go with it. Typically, it's just green and yellow for anyone who's interested to know. But what I was hoping to speak to here is, there's a ton, I will say, many benefits for electrification, and a lot of those run the gamut, right? There's, you think about public health and particularly student health. You can think about emissions and environmental impact and the broader effect on climate change. And if you're an energy nerd like me, you can think about, what's our broader energy burden of transportation, and how does electrification fit into that? At the end of the day, often the decision for a school district that is cash strapped really does come down to that cash and how to make a project pencil. And so that's as important, if not more important than any of the other decision drivers, I guess we could call them, that I just sort of outlined. The good thing is that we've worked really hard to come up with a way to layer all the ways that we can make this more affordable and package them into one offering. So you can see all of the things that we're thinking about here, and what we think makes it that much more manageable for our customers to be able to transition with us. So we're looking, I spoke to earlier, to grants and incentive money, and I'll get to V2G revenue in a minute. And I'm hoping that I said my friends up in South Burlington will talk a little bit about that as well. We are growing in scale and able to access great relationships with folks like DeVivo and deploy buses. When we're ordering hundreds of buses, we can typically get a little bit more purchasing power than a school district that maybe only orders a few buses every 10 years. So we really use that to help support our districts and drive prices down to the extent possible. We're also a private business that has made it our business to dig in on everything from tax credits and asset depreciation and the complexities of financing world, and getting bankers comfortable with this wild project this journey that we're on when it comes to school bus fleet electrification. How do we monetize the benefits of that so that they'll be satisfied and want to underwrite our projects? Part of that comes with go back one more, please. Part of that comes with making sure that our projects are running smoothly at all times and they're fully fueled and ready to go, and doing that with diligence. By establishing a longer term contract, we can guarantee that. Next slide, please. So this goes a layer deeper than the slide before. Again, apologies for the sort of strange formatting, but I'll make sure that's I get you a better version for the distribution to the group after the fact. But I think you get the idea, that when you really dig into it, I sort of gave you the higher level in the previous slide. There's a lot of different things that go into a EV fleet project. And when you talk about the full total cost of ownership, you have upfront capital costs, and hardware costs and software, essentially, as well as the ongoing operational costs. And we try to tackle both sides of that. And we bring them together into one package that then is a fixed annual fee for the life of the contract. And so not only is the sort of bundled approach simplifying in that, make sure that everything is in one place and paid for, but it's also reduces sort of risk and ongoing concern and just ongoing need to think about all of these things in a way that is, we become the problem solver and we become the one neck to wring, so to speak. Next slide, please. So it's great to hear about DeVivo's success, and I put a few of the local projects that we were recently awarded as well with EPA rebate, round 3 rebate. So I'm very excited to say that we'll be working in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont to continue our progress in helping districts in the Northeast. And I think I highlighted it earlier on, and it's great to hear from Mike about the process to get into these programs, potentially with some planning support. But the piece that Highland can offer is our expertise on these programs and our ability to successfully receive and be awarded funding through them. So highlighting that there's a range of opportunities in this region, the federal and utility area. Fortunately, at least I'm not aware of any current programs in the states that support school buses in particular, but certainly a growing interest to make sure that the Northeast of the United States is getting as much electrification as other regions. So very exciting to see the momentum. Next slide, please. The next couple of pieces, I figure if I get to have a moment on the grandstand, so to speak, I'll talk about the things that are near and dearest to my heart. One of the pieces that I referenced earlier was really making some savings through our operations and ensuring that that's all optimized. And so I'll touch on our managed charging approach as well as vehicle to grid. And as I mentioned, I'm an energy nerd, and this is the charging management at least is sort of core to everything we do. It's the way that we can make things pencil. And in the little formula you can see at the bottom, we can really almost have the cost of charging if we do it quote unquote right. So by scheduling and really monitoring and optimizing, we can make electricity cost much lower than it otherwise would be. And I would say that's very much part of our secret sauce. So having the software to help make sure that happens every single day, no matter what, is critical. And we've worked hard to make sure that our software can do that, as well as the training the staff, the human side of it as well, to make sure that we can fully support that. Next slide, please. And here's the good stuff. The cool thing about being in the Northeast is we have some of the only commercial vehicle to grid programs. So that's where you can use the school buses that typically would take students to and from school as big batteries and push power back to the grids where they're interconnected and receive some revenue for that performance, so to speak, on the grid. And we're doing that today in Massachusetts as well as in Vermont. So both National Grid and Green Mountain Power have programs to support this, and the opportunity is huge. There's, having more and more peak power challenges, and the fact that these are rolling batteries and are available for vehicle to grid activity is really exciting to me, and I think is another way that school districts can not only potentially gain some revenue, but also be active in the modernization of their grid and providing benefit to the broader community. Next slide, please. Just because I can geek out a little bit, this just shows you we're able to do this in a way that is fully automated, but also we can monitor everything and do some real-time troubleshooting and get a peek at our Massachusetts and Vermont projects. Next slide, please. I think maybe we're running a little bit short on time. I did provide a few slides just to sort of dig into Beverly, because I know that Burlington is up next, but maybe I'll save those as sort of an appendix rather than go through them all, but wanted to give you a little peek into one of our projects. So maybe we'll just skip over them, but rather quickly, but you can see we take our steps seriously in making sure that a fleet is up and running, and really excited to see it all come together when it does. Next slide, please. But the digging and such isn't necessarily the glamorous part, but it is really exciting when you have electric buses idling in the lot instead of diesel. So I will leave it there for now, and hopefully we'll have a little time for our next speaker and then questions at the end. Is that the plan, Peggy?
Yes, yes. Thanks, Amy. I figured we'll go right into Sean's presentation, and that will kind of open up to a bunch of questions. Um, So Sean McKenzie is up next. Sean is the South Burlington Transportation Coordinator for the past 2 years. So he actually has seen the deployment of the 4 Highland Electric school buses, and I believe you're getting some more, Sean. He's been in the South Burlington School District Transportation Department for a decade and has been in the transportation industry for over 35 years. So Sean, you're up next. Do you want this more? You do a little presentation, or are you? We can throw questions at you. But maybe maybe could I just ask a little bit about like just your experience with
sure.
You are really the we're the boots on the ground as Clean Cities, but you are really like the wheels on the ground. So maybe you can share some of your experience from kind of the soup to nuts on electric school buses, because I know you still have some of the internal combustion engines as well.
Yes, we do.
Again, and if I can just add one more little thing, if definitely, Sean, if you can touch base on like how cold affects. I know a lot of the people on the call and definitely the people in our region, that's a big concern for them is the cold. So if you have anything to add there, we'd love to hear it.
Thanks. And for those of you who are not familiar with the geography, South Burlington is different than Burlington. It's north and south and east of Burlington, but we're in the northwest portion of Vermont, right along Lake Champlain. Go ahead, Sean. Thank you.
So I can just give you a few quick stats. I think you were just looking for that. We have the 4 buses that we have are Thomas, Julie. It's the Freightliner C2 chassis. We currently have 4 Rhombus 60 kilowatt chargers, as Amy was saying, that are set up for V2G. We've done actually quite a bit with that, even more recently. One other stat I had, I looked up, and we've driven over 56,000 miles with our electric buses over the past couple of years. And I know somebody had just said something about the cold weather considerations. One quick story I'll tell you is we had our vehicle supplier out of Maine had a client from southern Vermont that wanted to come by and take a look at the bus and just get a little better idea of what they were like, kind of the performance and everything. And they came up and we allowed them to, went on a drive, and it just happened to be actually probably one of the coldest days in history in Vermont. It was 14 below with 47 degree below zero wind chill. And, I went out probably half an hour before they were supposed to show up to start the buses. It's still kind of a weird thing to say start, because you're not really starting an actual, diesel engine. So it's still kind of a weird thing to say, but, really I would have started it up, made sure that everything was all right. Probably, if it had been 40 degrees out. So it wasn't a coincidence that it was, happened to be that cold. We do see along that lines, we do see probably, I'd say 40 to 45% loss in range in the winter when it's cold, due to the just the electric motor itself, and then basically, as you can understand, all the components of the bus are electric. So the heat defrosters, like I said, everything is battery powered. So there is quite a drain on the batteries. So what I mean by that would be, so like now, if we were to run a bus now, we would probably we can get probably close to twice the mileage per percent when it's really warm out and things are working, optimally. Sometimes it's a little less than that. So in comparison, and I mean, anytime it's below, I'd say probably 20, 30 degrees, when, you know, it doesn't have to be 30 below for it to, you know, be that dramatic. You know, anytime you're using your heat, your defrost, anything else on the bus that runs off electricity, you know, it'll draw it down. But like I was saying before, we were looking at close to twice. So what that would mean would be, if you had say you had a 30-mile route in the morning, you're probably looking at we were using 50 to 55% of the battery for that route.
Hey, Sean, I got a follow up to that actually, and thank you very much for explaining that. When you are preconditioning your buses, are they still attached to shore power?
Yeah. So our process in the morning is to unplug the charging cable from the bus, get into the bus. You can start the bus up. You can preheat the bus with the heat, and it also helps warm up the battery in the bus. While it's running, you can plug it back in, and it'll keep everything running. It'll keep the battery. It doesn't really match, so it's not going to keep it at 100%, but it still adds, it adds some more charge to it, so it keeps the charge, as high as it can with with everything else running.
Excellent, thank you. And as Amy just mentioned, there are other ways to heat buses and cool buses as well. You don't necessarily have to have 100% electric, and you'll still have a lot of benefit. But Peggy, I'm going to close my mouth now and turn it back to you.
So that's pretty much what I had for stats. I mean, I know you asked about maybe a high point and a challenge, and I think it's kind of all together, because I think when we started this project a couple of years ago, we were among the first in Vermont and one of the first in New England to get electric buses. So everything was really new to us, as well as, I believe, we've been working pretty closely with Highland, and I think there was a lot of things that were still fairly new to them. So I think the high point of it all is having somebody there that you can work with to help you solve your problems. And we were, like I said, we had quite a few problems, and it's not, that's not unusual with with a platform that's that's fairly new to people. But like I said, we were fairly successful in getting things fixed as quickly as possible, and getting buses back out on the road to safely deliver children.
So Sean, related to that, and maybe this is also for Amy, one part is, how were your drivers receptive to this change? And when you had any buses down, at what point do your technicians are not able to touch anything? Presumably a lot of stuff is still under warranty. So where's that line between what your techs can do, what training they need for to deal with this high voltage equipment, and then where does Highland come in to kind of deal with some of the maintenance and repairs? Lots of questions. Sorry, I should have asked them.
Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, it's all depending on it's all depending on what the issue is, because we've had issues with chargers, the chargers themselves. We've had issues with batteries, which, some of that stuff we were able to kind of figure out on our own. It was just kind of just a different process of hooking them up, and there's a lot of things that they can do remotely to fix the chargers. But when it got more involved in actual issues with the battery. We had one time we had a charger that malfunctioned, and it actually drained the battery of the bus completely out, and it had to be towed away because there wasn't anything locally that could be done for it. But that was one of those things that was kind of a learning, part of the learning process, and there's a lot of things now we know better than we did before, so we know the process and what we can do before it comes to asking for help. And I think another good thing along the lines of maintenance is when you don't have a mechanic that has all the certifications to work on the buses, that you have a dealer of some sort that you can turn to for that purpose. And we do happen to have someone locally in the state that works on our buses, so it's a fairly easy turnover to get somebody out to work on something that's either under warranty or something that maybe we can't kind of figure out on our own.
Yeah, I'll just chime in a little bit. Hopefully this is Sean's experience, but the intent of our offering is that, as Sean described, we learn together kind of what the district and the mechanics that we've trained to do routine maintenance on these vehicles with our dealer partners and manufacturing partners, and with the district themselves. We learn together what they are comfortable with and capable of, and sort of the tips and tricks and each individual personality of the charger and the bus. And then when it's needed, Highland is there to engage and make sure that we're driving the troubleshooting of engaging the dealer, engaging the manufacturer, making sure that the things happen as quickly as they can and as they should, and then getting the buses up and running, and compensating the district for those things, and making sure that they're able to get students up and running, and that they're not short of buses or cash because the vehicles aren't running. So that's the intent of the offering, and it really is. I mean, Sean's an exemplary partner. Really, it's understanding, as he described it, understanding that it's never going to be all perfect. That doesn't happen with any bus, I think I can say. So whether it's diesel or natural gas or propane or electric, you're always going to have some ups and downs. And so if we can just be there to help make sure and manage through the process, that's our intent. But I'd say, Sean, maybe one other thing that's super cool that we've been able to do with the V2G is kind of help with dynamic organics, kind of get. It's really one of the most technologically advanced V2G projects out there. With a direct connect, essentially, is the way I think about it, to the utility. So they can call and say, we want some power, and the buses do their own thing. They're plugged in, they have power they can dispatch. And that's really unique and super cool that that's happening in South Burlington. So maybe I'm the only one that's exuberantly excited about it.
And I think another thing on those lines, and I've talked with several people from, not just from Highland, but in different webinars, is to have a good rapport with people and take notes. I've shared everything that we've come up with Highland, and because we've had such difficult time with even getting answers from manufacturers and engineers, is once something happens, we write down what we need to do to fix it, and really anybody needs or wants that information, just if Highland doesn't have it, get a hold of me. I'll or if you have a question, something comes up, like I said, we're proud in a way. We're not proud that we've had all these problems, but proud that we've been able to to accomplish the fixing and the learning, and like I said, I think it's good to have a good rapport with people and talk to people about it, and find out the answers. I would say to the people listening is get all the answers before you start a project, and make sure you've got everything, as much information as you can get. Now I know there's loads of information out there now that it's finally taken foot, and kind of going forward.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. And certainly this is, you were on our webinar last year for the electric school bus peer exchange. And it's always helpful, I think, for bus operators and districts to hear from someone who, is not a vendor, but actually, managing the bus fleet. So we appreciate it. And just another comment, but you kind of answered it a little bit earlier is, do you have trouble finding mechanics to work on your buses? You say you use, a service here in Vermont. Is that correct?
Well, the way the buses and most of them are set up, I'd say at least half or better is it's the same, it's the same platform. Yes, the motor and the electrification is a different, is a different piece to it, but a lot of the buses is, if you were just to go out and look at it, it's hard to tell the difference between an electric bus and a diesel bus, other than popping the hood or looking underneath. No, we do have a mechanic that's able to work on them, but what I meant was that if it's something that's warranty, or if it's something that's maybe a little bit beyond the mechanic's scope, then like I said, we do have someone in the state that that is trained to work on the electric buses that can assist, whether it be answer to a question, or to actually come and and physically do the work for us.
Okay, great, thank you. And I think Mike in the chat asked, certainly it's exciting about V2G. And for those of you who don't know, the South Burlington area where the bus barn is, there's like a big solar array. It's also where many of us go to dump our trash. So it is always exciting when I go every couple of weeks to dump the trash and see those buses and all that. But in thinking about the V2G, Mike asked if it can be used to power a community shelter during a grid shutdown. Amy answered that yes, it could. Is that an application that South Burlington has implemented?
We haven't tested anything like that, but I know even from day one they did they did talk about that there's I think it's simply just like a converter on the on the plug into the bus, and you can do whatever. You charge whatever. It's basically like you said, it's a portable battery. So as long as you have the right connection to to connect into, it's
yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's you need a few pieces of equipment, but you can certainly set up a bus to be able to plug into a designated critical load and a critical load panel, switch over to that. Having a stationary battery helps. There's a few other little pieces, but we're really hopeful. We've talked to Sean, like he said, about doing something like that in South Burlington and some other sites. And I think there's a lot of interest thankfully across the country, and with DOE and others. So we have a GRIP application for those that it's called, I don't know, DOE's program, the GRIP program, where we would be looking at doing some deployments that would include vehicle to building as a part of a sort of integrated bus resilience and grid modernization effort. But yeah, the sky's the limit, really. It's a rolling battery. You can do pretty much everything that you could do with a battery.
Great, thank you. And one final question here before we go on to funding. Is Highland encouraging V2G projects for most of the fleets? Or is that just like the sweet? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great question. It's less on sort of fleet size or anything on our side, but rather what's potentially either available or potentially available as far as programs for revenue generation. Really, the equipment is more expensive, and we're hopeful that there'll be more and more programs in different utilities and regulated territories to sort of recoup the cost of that investment. We think it's, I hope that, yes, absolutely, we're doing that more and more through as we go. But the cost can be a big limiter for districts to invest in, and so you have to sort of have some confidence that there will be a revenue generating opportunity in the future. But yeah, I think there's certainly good reasons for future proofing a project, given that the chargers should last a decade if they're properly maintained. So we have a runway to look at for programs. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So thank you, Sean, very much, and thank you, Amy, for joining us. We're going to go quickly over some of the funding opportunities that have been mentioned, and a federal loan program. So John LeBeer, do you want to take over this slide?
Yeah, and like I said, we'll keep this super short and sweet to the point. Also, just quick wanted to point out, it occurs to me that every time I get on one of these webinars about clean school buses, everybody is concerned about, and it's new, so rightfully so, buses breaking down. I feel like a lot of diesel buses still break down too, though. Just wanted to put it out there, like, and maybe someday that in the next iteration of this, we can maybe find out if there's some data that supports, how percentage of on time for EV versus ICE, but I digress. So we've heard a lot of great opportunities. We've heard a lot of the benefits of buses. We've heard that there's planning opportunities and planning support. I don't know if we mentioned this, but definitely us here at Clean Cities, we always want to help our stakeholders. We always want to connect you with the right resources. So in addition to the federal grant programs that everybody is talking about every single day, because it's a lot of money and we're all excited, right? Sometimes, like I just got an email the other day, said, hey, we got this grant approved, but we're still short. And we're fearful we're not going to be able to make that stretch to get over the hump to get that big group of funding from the Fed. So there are other opportunities. So the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles program, that is actually the grant portion, but there's also the federal Clean School Bus program. That's also a grant. I don't know. Can we skip to the next slide? There we are. The Heavy Duty Clean Vehicles program, the EPA Clean School Bus program, and the Clean Bus Planning Award. I don't know, that last slide, it looked wrong, but there are loan programs from various federal entities that will allow for loans that you can use in conjunction with your grant that you have received. So there are other opportunities. There's also opportunities for tax credits and different things. So it's actually very complex. Just know that, unless you've searched to the end of the earth, you probably are missing out on some resources. And please engage the people that are in this work. We want to help. We're here to help. We're excited to help. It's why we do what we do. And so that's what I'll say about funding and loan opportunities.
Thanks, John. And in addition to hopefully the upcoming EPA Clean School Bus grants, we have the EPA DERA program, Diesel Emission Reduction Act, as well as state funding. And some of our states have kind of leftover VW, Volkswagen settlement funding. These are local, state, and regional agencies and departments. The DERA is up to 45% of eligible diesel vehicle equipment replacements. And you can work with your Clean Cities directors to kind of help with that application process. Next slide. The state of Vermont has, our funding is open until beginning of July, July 10th, maybe. And New Hampshire's should be opening up soon. And then Maine's clean diesel program, apologies, accepts application on a rolling basis. Next slide. Gabriella, do you want to take this?
Second. Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we've covered lots of different information today. We just want to leave you with a little bit more resources. So if you guys need additional help with anything, you can reach out to the Technical Response Service that's on the Alternative Fuels Data Center, AFDC, linked below for easy access. They can help with any questions, also provide research. If you need additional help beyond that, they also have Tiger Teams, which are a second level resource, which have expert technical problem solving for folks. And then quickly, these are just 4 references that we wanted to add. They cover different laws and incentives, some relevant case studies if you're looking for a little bit more information, and then some tools for vehicles and cost of ownership for fleets. And I believe John is going to close us out.
Yes, hi everybody. Thank you for joining us today. This webinar was brought to you by Team Northern Tier or the Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine Clean Cities and Communities Coalitions. Thank you for all of our great experts in the electric school bus field, providing some great resources, technical assistance, and information around funding and actual deployment of this technology in school districts in the Northeast, which folks always have concerns about, but we've shown that it can be done successfully. And, you know, we have some great success stories to point to. So thank you for joining us all here today. We will send out a recording of this webinar along with a copy of the slides so that folks can click through and access all of the resources that are intertwined in all of the slides. We will also share a list of all of our expert presenters who joined us on the call today and contact information for them and their organization, so you can reach out directly or work through your state's Clean Cities Coalition. So thank you for joining us here today. It's beautiful weather out here in the Northeast, so enjoy it, and we will see you next time. Thank you.